Alright guys, in today's video I'm going to be talking about the 2022 Trek Marlin 7 and the 2022 Trek Marlin 8. I had a few of you guys want me to give you my opinion on which one you should buy, so I'm going to do my best to do that and give you guys the best advice I can on which one you should buy depending on what kind of rider you are. So let's jump into the video. Alright, first off, both of these bikes have the same frame. They both have the Alpha Silver aluminum frame. So as far as frames and everything is exact same. Also, I'll only be talking about the medium large, the large, and the extra large because I think all of those are exactly the same. So it'll be easier to kind of tell you guys what I think, and most people ride those sizes anyway, so hopefully this will be suitable for most people watching this video. But just to be honest, I'm not really good with specs and all that kind of stuff. I'm more of a hands-on, I want to ride it and see how it feels type of person. And I've actually ridden the Trek Marlin 7 and the Trek Marlin 8, not on actual trails, but I've test rode them around the store and everything, so I kind of got a feeling. And I've been riding the Trek Marlin 6 for a year now, so, and I had a Trek Marlin 6 before the one that I have now, so I'm pretty familiar with as far as the Trek Marlins. This is going to be the opinion from somebody who's ridden the bikes, who's kind of know the feeling of them, and I know what really matters with the bikes and what you're really paying for, because at the end of the day I want you to get your money's worth and I want you to make the best decision possible without feeling like you gotta get the biggest or the best thing. Now the biggest thing with these two bikes to me is the price difference. You got pretty much a $300 price difference between the Trek Marlin 8 and the Trek Marlin 7, but the question is it really worth that extra $300 to get the Trek Marlin 8? And we're gonna look at some stuff right now which I think are the most important things on the bikes, and we're gonna try to see if we can come to a conclusion of if it's really worth it. First, we're gonna look at the forks on each one of them. Now this will differ depending on what kind of trails and terrain you have in your area, so depending on what kind of style you like to ride or what you're dealing with on the trails, it might make a difference, but I'm just looking in general terms as far as is it worth it to spend the extra $300. So first, on the 2022 Trek Marlin 7, you have the RockShox Judy coil spring fork, which is 100 millimeters of travel. And on the 2022 Trek Marlin 8, you have the RockShox Silver fork with 100 millimeters of travel, but it has an air spring fork. And the difference between those two, having the air spring fork, it allows you to adjust the fork depending on your weight, which allows for a better ride. So that's definitely a big advantage for the fork on the Trek Marlin 8 than the Trek Marlin 7. It's not a huge difference for me personally, but I know a lot of people who really like to adjust the forks and have it the way they want it depending on the weight and how they want it to act on the trail. Another thing that the Trek Marlin 8 has over the Trek Marlin 7 is the Trek Marlin 8, the fork, the RockShox Silver Judy has the rebound control under the fork also, which helps you groom the fork the way you want to and the way you want it to react on the trail and stuff. So that's a big advantage to have also. Now let's jump to the rim. So the rim on the Trek Marlin 7 is a Bontrager connection, which is not tubeless ready, but it has the Presto valve. And on the 2022 Trek Marlin 8, it's got the Bontrager Covey rim, which is tubeless ready and has Presto valve, so that could be a huge difference for some of you guys also. The Trek Marlin 7 is running the Bontrager XR2 comp tires, and the Trek Marlin 8 is running the Maxxis Ardent race tires. On the Trek Marlin 7, the tires are not tubeless ready, but on the Trek Marlin 8, the tires are tubeless ready. So it's a whole tubeless ready setup for the Trek Marlin 8, but on the Trek Marlin 7 it's not. So I know that could be a huge determining factor for a lot of you guys, and I'm an advocate of tubeless, so if you want to go tubeless, I would definitely prefer the tubeless setup that's ready over having to do it all myself. Next, we have the drivetrains on the bikes. With this situation, I don't really think there's much of a huge difference because the Trek Marlin 7 has the Shimano Dior drivetrain, which is what I have on my Trek Marlin 6. On the Trek Marlin 8, they have the SX Eagle drivetrain, which is SRAM's entry-level drivetrain, which I've heard crazy stories about them breaking and stuff. So I don't really think there's much difference in the drivetrain because I think they both made with similar quality. So I wouldn't really factor the drivetrain in my decision, to be honest. But one thing about the drivetrains, which doesn't really have to do with the quality, is the Trek Marlin 7 has a 1x10, whereas the Trek Marlin 8 has the 1x12, and the 1x12 can really help with climbing and trying to get up some steep terrain. So if you really want those extra gears, it's worth it in my opinion, because I do wish I had a couple more gears on my Trek Marlin 6 sometimes when I'm climbing. So for the 8 to have the 1x12 is a really good thing. As far as the brakes on both bikes, they both have the same brakes. They have the Shimano MT200 hydraulic disc brakes, so you don't have to worry about trying to decide what the brake situation is because they're both the same. But there's one huge thing that both of these bikes don't have, and I'll mention that in a minute. So all in all, my two things that I really think you need to focus on, or maybe three things, is the fork, the tubeless ready setup, because that's huge, not having to worry about getting everything tubeless ready, and then the gear ratio, having those extra gears. Those are the three huge things for me with these two bikes. But the one huge thing I think that both of them left out, which made me make my decision with which one I would get, is neither one of them have a dropper post. And I think for $1,300, the Marlin 8 definitely should have had a dropper post, because the Roscoes have dropper posts around that same price. I got a 2021 Trek Roscoe 7 and I have a dropper post, and that was around $1,200 or $1,300, about the same price as the Marlin 8. So I'm surprised that the Marlin 8 doesn't have a dropper post. So that's a huge disadvantage when paying that extra $300 for me. Now, for which bike I would choose or suggest that you get between the two, in my opinion, and I'm talking general terms right now, I'm talking no super techie, no going all out mountain biking and stuff like that, just a casual rider that likes to mountain bike and likes to commute and just wants a good all-around bike that's capable, I would honestly just go with the Trek Marlin 7, because with the Trek Marlin 8, all those things are nice, the 1x12, the tubeless ready setup, the fork, but not having a dropper post, that's huge for me, because if you add a dropper post to that bike, it transforms the bike into something special. But with the Trek Marlin 7, I think it's so capable already that if you just add a dropper post to that, it'll change that one too. So I think you get more bang for your buck with that, because yeah, it would be nice to have the tubeless ready setup, but in my opinion, most people who ride Marlins don't go all out mountain biking like that, where you need a tubeless setup or you need a 1x12. I mean, I think a 1x10 would be just fine for most people who ride Trek Marlins. So that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.